Hello, I'm Pariksith Singh, MD, and it is my distinct pleasure to have one of the best minds in Vedanta that I know of today. And that person is Sri Partho. Namaste, Partho ji. And I have his book, which I have personally been waiting for now 3.5 decades. This is Sanatan Dharma, The Quest for Truth. And I've gone on record saying that this is probably the most important book of this century. And I don't think it's an exaggeration. Why do I think so? Dharma is an extremely important concept, term in the Indic perspective, and hopefully someday the global perspective. We Indians need to understand what Dharma is, what Sanatan Dharma is, and how we can apply it in our life, our lives daily. To really live what our best have brought forth for us. That, I think, is the key to transforming our life today. Parthoji, namaskar, thank you.
Namaskar.
And I do want to bring up the things that we discussed yesterday. So without further ado, I want to come right to it. One of the very important things you said yesterday is God, to paraphrase Nietzsche, is dead. And that sounds quite drastic. What does that mean? Did you really mean it?
So I didn't say God is dead. What I said is God as a concept is outdated. What I also said is that God as an idea, the idea of God, belongs to the past of humanity, to a more adolescent past, I said. It's an idea that served well in the philosophical and moral development of humanity. And it is time now that the human race collectively attains to that stage where it doesn't need the idea of God, it needs to go beyond the idea of God, beyond the concept of a superior being, an extra cosmic authority, an extra cosmic master of the universe, creator of the universe, an extra cosmic creator of the universe. Because if we look at Sanatan Dharma, the Vedanta of Sanatan Dharma, we'll see that there is no concept of creation. Srishti does not exist. What exists is manifestation, vyakti. So this universe as we are living it is the manifestation of a supreme unmanifest reality, a reality that you and I cannot know, a reality that the human mind cannot know. And that reality is not divided, it's not this and that, it's one single reality that becomes the many. That to understand that reality, to attain to that reality, to even begin to live that reality, one has to go beyond all the other ideas and concepts we have of reality. Because our own ideas of reality prevent us from going further or deeper into reality, in our exploration of reality.
So let me try to understand this. Concept of God means someone up there with a beard, floating over the clouds, without a beard. And okay, you did a wrong thing, negative points. You did a right thing, positive, like a schoolmaster.
Like a schoolmaster. Firstly, like a creator, the very concept of a creator, that there is a being that creates this universe,
right,
and then populates this universe
outside.
And because there is this creator and there's this creation, the two are always separate.
Right. And I've never understood that.
Yeah.
I haven't really understood it, but I want to come back to it. What is the concept in Sanatan Dharma of isn't there a creator in Sanatan Dharma?
So we come to the Vedantic idea. I call it the Vedanta of Sanatan Dharma, which
Right.
needs to be understood before one can live Sanatan Dharma. So, creation. Let's talk of creation for a while. The creator presupposes a creation, or creator leads to a creation. Of course,
Yes.
creation presupposes a creator. So, the concept of creation, a creator, and a created necessarily exist in a causal timeline. Would you agree?
And dualistic
A dualistic
framework.
causal timeline.
Okay.
A causal timeline in a dualistic framework, necessarily.
Right.
So, because why dualistic? Because there is a created, there is a creation, and there is a creator.
Right.
There's multiplicity
Yes.
here. It's definitely not one reality.
No.
And a causal timeline because there is a moment of creation, before which there was no creation, there was only the creator. Then there is the creation, then there's the created. So there's a timeline.
Right.
But the Vedanta of Sanatan Dharma takes its stand outside space and time. So if there is a creation, the Vedanta of Sanatan Dharma is taking a stand outside of that creation. So creation may be an event in that one reality that Vedanta talks about. And there may be several such events, which means several such creations. But essentially, all these creations are events happening within a cosmic reality or a supracosmic reality that by itself does not change. It's immutable.
Yes.
It doesn't break up into creation and created.
Right.
It's there. It's immutable. It's beyond space and time. It's beyond cause and effect. It neither causes anything to happen, nor is it the effect of anything happening.
Yes.
It is self-existent.
Complete
Self-existence. And it's almost impossible to talk about this self-existence because we are talking about a reality beyond space-time, beyond causality, beyond duality, beyond the mind's range of perception or understanding. So we're talking about a reality that transcends the mind, a supra-mental reality. So that is our first challenge. Whenever someone tries to understand the darshan, the philosophy of Sanatan Dharma, the first obstruction is that we are using an instrument to understand a reality that's necessarily beyond that instrument. The mind is trying to fathom a supra-mental reality. Not possible. Does that mean that we'll never know this reality? No. We need to develop an instrument that will comprehend that reality. So if that reality is supramental, then we have to develop a supramental faculty. It's logical.
Yes.
So it's not that we'll never comprehend. We will, but it's an evolution, which in a more traditional language we will call a yoga. Yoga is compressed evolution, let's say. So it's an accelerated evolution, which is what Sanatan Dharma talks about. So what is this reality? Are we that reality? Yes, we are that reality. But are we that one absolute reality? No. That one absolute reality has become this relative, non-absolutistic, relative, multiple reality, which we call this universe, with all its names and forms and forces and movements. So it's like, it's difficult to think of the right analogy. Some people have spoken of a balloon that you blow. So each part of the balloon, as it expands, it's still the same single reality. It's only expanding, becoming more. So the universe is like that. It's expanding. But what is expanding is itself. It is that which is expanding, that reality, which yesterday we referred to Ekam Sat, that one reality. It's that one reality, and the Vedantis call it Brahma. So whatever name you choose to give it. So that one reality expands and becomes this universe. There's no creation. It's a self-becoming of that one reality. That's the difference between the Sanatan philosophy and all religious philosophies.
So, to simplify, to put it into English, that reality is the manifestation. You cannot separate the creation from the created.
Yes, you cannot. Even the concept will not arise.
So, this is still the reality.
Yes.
And you and I are that reality.
Yes.
And the whole universe, Brahmand, is that reality.
Yes. Brahmand is that reality living itself. You and I are that reality living itself.
Right. Okay.
And for most people, that might be somewhat abstract.
Or it might be revelatory. Your brain will go into an explosion itself. Because there's no separation between you and that, which is one of the highest insights of Vedanta.
Yeah. And so people often ask that, again, that question that we raised yesterday, how do we not know it then?
How do we not know it then?
How do we not know that we are that reality? Then comes question to that. What is there to know? When we say how do we not know it, do you realize we are using know in the old sense? I mean, knowledge, the whole what they call the science of epistemology, is based on a human process of knowing, which is again necessarily dualistic.
Yes.
The object-subject duality. If to know something, there has to be a knower. So there is a knower and there is an object that he or she knows. So a knower and the known. But if there is one single reality, then where is the knower and where is the known? If you are the reality, how are you to know your own reality? Who is to know that which is the reality? So if you just look at the statement itself, before we come to the question, how do we not know this reality? The statement that we are that one reality. Everything is that one reality. So this is that reality. So how are you to know it? Because knowledge would mean some knower outside of this reality. Now, who's outside of this reality when there is only that one reality? So the moment you grasp that idea, which in itself is a pretty subtle idea to grasp, that to know something, you have to be outside of it. It has to be an object to your consciousness for you to know it. And this reality is the only reality that exists. Ekam Sat is itself, it's absolute. There's nothing outside of it. There is nothing else besides it.
Right.
Ekam Sat, there is nothing else besides it. So if that is so, who is to know this reality? And which reality are you to know? Try as hard as you might. The only thing you'll ever end up knowing is your own Nam Roop reflection. No, nothing else you can ever know. Try as hard as you might. Look as deep as you can. You will only see reflections of your own Nama Roop.
So hold your thought or lack thereof, and let's talk about this more. So there is one reality, Ekam Sat, that truth.
Right.
And since there is nothing else, then I am not only a part of that reality, I am that reality, which is what the Upanishadic famous saying Tat Tvam Asi might mean, does it not?
Yes. Tat Tvam Asi, that reality you are.
I am that reality.
Yeah.
So then there's no problem then.
There's no problem then. So then the other person might ask, so what?
So what? That's what
we are still living our miserable lives.
Yes.
We are still breathing in bad air.
Yes.
We are still envious of each other. We are still jealous of each other. We still play games with each other. We deceive, we betray, we lie, all that.
Yes. Kill.
It's a very legitimate question. Yes. If I am that reality and you are that reality and everything is that reality, then why all this?
Right.
So it's like a play, a scintillating play of atoms. Everything is there and you can see movement, you can see everything happening. But you look deeper and deeper inside and suddenly nothing is happening. There is silence. So you come back again, and then again everything is happening. The molecular play of this universe, matter, energy, forms, out of forms, self-consciousness, thoughts, all that. Then you look deeper again. You just go inside, trace it all back to whatever, some point of origin, trace it back, go deeper, and suddenly everything is gone again. It's silence, it's emptiness. And the question changes. Like, what's all this happening? So you say, what's all this happening? I say, yes, what's all this happening? So for one person, the person will ask, what's all this happening? And will stop at that and just see it happening and get caught by the appearance only. So he or she will get involved in the play. It's like a cinema that you're seeing on the screen. And the cinema is so interesting that you get completely caught up in the screen, in the cinema, on the screen. And the other person will go on looking deeper into the cinema, into the projection. And sooner or later, we'll see there's just a play on the screen. There is the screen. And then the screen itself will disappear. The screen itself is not a solid screen. It's not a wall. It's a multi-dimensional screen. It's a screen that is living and is multi-dimensional. And the deeper you go within, the more of the screen reveals itself till the screen itself has disappeared, and what you come to, you cannot talk about. So always, and that's where we come to Sanatan Dharma and its essential darshan, is to know reality. You start with what is there right next to you, the immediate reality, which is, we are sitting here in the studio and talking about Vedanta, Sanatan Dharma. That is our immediate reality. Now we have two choices: to stay in this reality, fix ourselves in this reality, and this reality becomes the end all. So, which is fine. The other choice is we dive into this reality. It's almost like you can dive into everything because everything is multidimensional. So you just dive into this reality and see what is the origin of this, how far inside does it go, and you dive in, and before you know it, all this is gone. Even from memory, all this is gone. You do a deep dive and you enter this profound silence of being.
How do you do a deep dive?
Actually, very simple. You still yourself first, and you become fully aware of the immediate reality. There is nothing else. You cannot go anywhere else to do it.
Right.
The only thing you have is the immediate reality. So you become fully aware of the immediate reality, complete awareness, and you have stilled your thought process. You're not thinking about this reality. Now, do understand that when we start thinking about the immediate reality, we get caught up in the immediate reality. That's how we get caught up in this immediate reality. But I'm not thinking about it now. I've stilled my thoughts, and I'm with feeling. How am I feeling in this space, in this immediate reality? Now, I become completely aware of that, and then I still the feelings too. So then there is only the awareness of this immediate reality. No thought, no feeling, just a sensorial awareness of this immediate reality, all forms frozen in the space and time. Then you go into the awareness itself. There's certain training, yogic training needed for it, but it's no rocket science. So the quieter you become within yourself, the more everything within you is stilled, the more you sink into the immediate reality. Just it's the nature of awareness to sink, and it's the nature of thought to float. It's sort of new science and new physics. So the more I think and feel, the more I float. The quieter I become, the more still I become. I sink. Where do I sink? Immediate reality, the only thing I have to sink into. So I sink in and I begin to see everything as sense constructs. And I sink deeper into that, and the sense constructs are also gone. No feelings, no thoughts, no sense constructs. There is just being. You know you are, but you no longer care about what you are, who you are, what you're doing. All that is gone. Just a sense of being. You continue sinking deeper. Where? Into the sense of being, because you have nothing else. Even this immediate reality is a superposition on being. So you just go sinking deeper and deeper into being. And as all our Maharshis, Mahayogis realize, there is no end to this sinking into being. Being is infinite. The more you sink, the more of being you realize. And very soon, even the you is gone. No one's sinking. It's just the sinking. There's no one experiencing being. It's just being experiencing itself. And the deeper you go, and that's where Sanatan Dharma begins to reveal its profounder mysteries, because the deeper you go, you find that this being is living itself not just as the so-called me, it's living itself as everyone. Every form is the same being living itself. It's just only one being that's living itself in this particular space in 5 forms. Manifesting through 5 forms, and you take the 5 forms away, the being will still be there, untouched, unchanged, immutable. So whether these forms come or go, nothing happens to being. That is the essential darshan of Sanatan Dharma.
And when you say darshana, you don't mean thought.
Not really. Darshan, philosophy, but it's a worldview, it's a philosophy, it's an attitude of being, it's a seeing, a perception, and it's the understanding that arises from direct perception. All that put together, you have darshan. A difficult word to translate into English, as you know.
Yes. So let's come back to this. You wrote, "This is Sanatan Dharma, the quest for truth." Obviously, you didn't write for anybody else, since it's all one reality.
Yes.
And one reality is writing itself.
Yes.
If we can accept that
in our
premise.
manner of speaking, yes.
So what is a person to do? We go back to you are here, now you go on the street and you see the rickshaw wallahs haggling with you. It's dirty, there's poverty, there are people don't have food, people who are sick, they need help.
Yes. So, it's a very important question.
Yes.
There is nothing you can do about that. The noise, the squalor, the poverty, the suffering, the pain. You can't do anything about it. So what can you do? You can do something about it. Sink into being. Again, that's the only thing you can do about
Right on the street.
Right on the street.
You don't leave it all and go to the Himalaya.
No. No, you don't.
Okay.
You sink into being. Go deep again, as deep. And every time you sink in, you sink deeper.
Right.
So that's the practice by itself. I'm often asked, is there a practice to the Vedanta of Sanatan Dharma? It's the only practice to keep sinking. Sink as deep as you can. Next time you'll sink a bit more. And remember, the sinking is infinite. So don't expect to reach a bottom.
This is SYNC, you're sinking with the reality.
That's a very good way of putting it. I was talking of SINK, but I can now talk of SINK and SYNC.
Right, because we are not in sync right now.
Yes, so now we are in sync.
Right.
Thank you. That gives it a richer dimension, yes. So sink
Right.
as deep and as wide as you can. And every time you sink a bit deeper. And if you remember that this sinking has no end, it's an infinite sinking, then you're not
Right.
expecting to touch a bottom. So then there is no thing that, when am I going to touch a bottom and what kind of a realization will that be? You don't care anymore because it's an infinite sinking. So what? You go on sinking. So as you sink deeper, this that you see outside, the noise, the
Right.
poverty or the suffering that you talked about, takes on a different hue altogether. You're no longer seeing it the way you saw it up there on the surface. Very, very different. Now you're seeing multidimensionally. You, on the surface, you see a person suffering and you feel your heart goes out to that person. Oh, no, why is this? Where's the justice of God?
Right.
The religious thinking.
Right.
But when you sink that deep inside, you're seeing the same person suffering, but then you're seeing layers upon layers behind that person, lifetimes opening up, like what this person has been through lifetimes. What has made this person what he or she is? What is this thing that we call karma? The forces of karma around this person, and uh, it's impossible to describe how you see, but because you see multiply simultaneously. If that makes sense, you are seeing multiply simultaneously, and so many layers are opening up, and suddenly that memory of what you saw there's gone. You see so much more, so much richer and more complex, and you also see how this so-called suffering leads to uh, absolute victory, a triumph at that point. And if you somehow stop the suffering, that will never happen. And then you come back to the surface and you don't do anything. You walk past with perfect understanding. This is how it's meant to be. You won't interfere. Because if you do, you know that if you, oh my God, this person is suffering, let me alleviate his or her suffering. And then you have stopped this person from
Becoming
blossoming
someone.
into what you have seen he or she is blossoming into.
So is this sinking, SYNC, is this the basis for what the Buddha says compassion?
Yes, that is absolutely. Because what will you do when you come back to the surface? Will you, yes, in a manner of speaking, inwardly, you will walk away in the sense that you'll be disengaged. Outwardly, I don't think anybody will walk away. If you're hurt, the person will go and heal your hurt, but it will be completely impersonal healing because you know that this person has to get hurt. He has to experience the pain. But what can I do to relieve his pain? This much, then I'll do it.
But whatever
So
you'll
yes,
do,
compassion. Yes.
but whatever you do will be right. Sorry for using the word, but will be coming out of a new dimension.
Yes, it will come out of a deeper dimension, deeper knowledge. This is called jnana. It will come out of jnana, which is always deeper. Jnana is always, it's infinitely deep. So how do you live life? How do you respond to existence? Depends on what depth or what shallowness you're living at. If you're living at a shallow on a shallow plane, you will respond very differently. If you're living in the depths, you will respond very differently. If you're living in the deeper depths, it will be a very different response.
So I guess this is what our ancients meant by karuna. Is that?
Yes. So now that you've asked the question of compassion, karuna,
Yes.
let me complete by saying that the true compassion, what I call the Buddha's compassion, or a Vedanti's compassion in the Sanatan Dharma,
Yes.
the true compassion is not tending to your wound and helping it to heal, that which you might do. You're a physician, know that. You will do that.
Right.
But the true compassion is, while I do that, I tell you, this is not a real pain. This is not a real wound. You don't have to get involved with this wound. There are multiple layers behind this wound, and make you listen to me. And as I'm healing your wound, you begin to see deeper. And if I can make you see deeper that this is an appearance, it's mithya. Let's go deeper. In spite of the pain, I don't dismiss your pain. Oh, you're pain, and I'm healing that. But I'm taking you deeper, showing you that there's a way out of this pain. If I can do that, that is compassion. That is, I would call it the Buddha's compassion.
So a real cure, not a superficial cure based on a fixed idea, because some child maybe falls down and the child needs to fall down to learn.
Yes.
And so instinct, the deeper knowledge says, let the child learn. Don't do anything. Not mentally go and try to mess around, right? Or if another child needs to be helped and the right action comes out of itself. Is that a correct way of saying it?
Yes, right action comes out of the truth that you've seen. And the deeper you sink in, the more truth you see. The more truth you see, the more aligned you are with reality. And when you're aligned to reality, the right action comes to you as natural as breathing.
But technically, aren't you always in the reality? So whatever.
Yes, technically we are the reality.
Right.
So we're back to the same question, how come I don't know it?
Right.
So we don't know it because we want to know it. We have to drop this compulsion of knowing. This is probably one of the first renunciations one has to make on this path. Renunciation of the need to know and understand. We can never know and understand. And this need to know and understand causes us no end of trouble for years, really. It takes many years to realize that you cannot understand. You cannot know and understand till you go beyond the faculty that you're using to know and understand.
Which is the mind.
Yes. There comes a point, if your mind is well developed, is finely intelligent, your mind will realize it for you that, you know what, I'm not capable of this kind of knowledge. You give me the kind of knowledge that you feed a computer, for instance, I'm good with that. I'm good at telling you what to do on a practical plane. But you ask me fundamental questions, you want me to resolve fundamental issues? No, sorry. Can't. So when the mind realizes, the highest function of the mind is to realize its own limitation. And the first enlightenment, to my mind, is when the mind has realized it is incapable of going beyond, realizes limitations and gives up. The moment the mind gives up, sits back, retires, that my job is only to the surface level, what the AI can do so well, the surface level. The mind understands that and then just occupies itself with that. It's no longer bothered with philosophy and spirituality. The mind is retired. Then the deeper faculties, deeper capacities and faculties in us awaken. Intuition, for instance, as Sri Aurobindo said, when the thinking mind shuts down, the intuitive mind awakens of its own. So then the intuitive mind awakens. And then there are many other ranges of mind that Sri Aurobindo talks about, Sanatan Dharma talks about. So, yes, basically, it's a question of silencing the mind.
And starting to look and pay attention.
Yes, when you silence the mind, when you're no longer caught up with your thoughts, then you're paying attention. Yes, absolutely.
Without preconceptions, without fixed.
Yes, so in a simple way, without any mental activity. Everything, when you begin to look, when you see for the first time, you begin to see that your mind, your brain, your head is filled with noise. The noise of mental activity. Everything is noise. My beliefs, my prejudices, my bias, my opinions, judgments, even what I know, what I understand, everything is mental noise. And when you become acutely aware of all the mental noise, then it's comparatively easy to drop it. You can't drop it till you become so aware of it. If there's noise in this room, which is comparatively quiet right now, but there is noise which we are not hearing because we are occupied in our talking. But if I become very quiet, then I'm aware of other noise, the subtler noise, the background noise. So first I have to become aware of all the noise. People often ask me how to get the silence of mind. I say, first become aware of the noise. And become aware of the noise to an extent that you cannot sit still with the noise. The noise affects you. That's when you're ready to give up the noise, because you suddenly realize, till that point, you always think that the noise is outside. You're always blaming. Then you go to the Himalayas. When you're convinced the noise is outside, so you go to the Himalayas, and you realize the noise was never outside.
The noise is coming with you.
Yeah, it goes with you. So because the noise is inside the head. So once the noise inside the head is stilled, then there is no noise in the universe anymore. Then you're sinking into the silence, yes.
So tell me about the process of this book. This is, as you have said, someone noted, this is permeated with Swami Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
Is that because of your personal inclination, your own development? That's how Sanatan Dharma manifested through you?
It's interesting. I would say yes and no to that. Yes, because I'm a disciple of the mother and Sri Aurobindo and of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda is the one who brought me to the spiritual life, so I owe him not just this. I think I owe him all my lifetimes. Yes, I think I've been very, very close to Swamiji inwardly since he first came to me. So yes, it's permeated with Swami Vivekananda. And Sri Aurobindo and Mother are the love of my heart. So yes, it's permeated with Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. So that's the yes part of it. The no part of it is that I also have used my mind. Before writing this book, I did a very concentrated research on Sanatan Dharma. I think it was more than 6 months of it, real concentrated research to find out how do I explain the Sanatan Dharma that I've come to understand in so many years of my life. And I found, very objectively speaking, I found that whenever I delve deeper into the Sanatan Dharma, whatever, even the most surface Sanatan Dharma, the religion aspect of it, even something like sitting in front of Hanuman's idol or Ganesha's idol and worshipping, or putting a tikka on your head, or going on a pilgrimage, or bathing in the Ganga and saying that I'm cleansing myself of sins. Even that superficial level of Sanatan Dharma, I cannot explain any of it without going into its Vedanta and its yoga. You cannot explain even the most superficial practice of Sanatan Dharma without going into its darshan, because if you don't, then it becomes a meaningless act. I mean, how can you take a bath in the Ganga and cleanse yourself of sins? Absurd. It goes against all logic, which it does, actually. But there is a metaphor. It's a metaphor. There's something behind it. And that's the darshan. And every time I would go to the darshan, I would come to Sri Aurobindo and to Vivekananda. And whichever way I would look, whatever tapestry of it I would unravel, whatever thread I would hold, it would lead me to Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo.
But yesterday you said, suppose you study any other religion, and we'll talk about religion, because you also said not only is God dead, which you never said, religion also is dead.
Religion is dying. Unfortunately, it's not dead yet, but it's dying. But again, why should I say unfortunately? Humanity will keep its religions for as long as it needs it. I can already see, even, I mean, at this age, as I've studied human beings everywhere, I've seen that the more progressive and enlightened human beings are already outgrowing religion.
And when you say religion, the outward form of religion, is that what you're saying?
I mean, what is the inner form of religion? The moment you go for the inner religion, it becomes spirituality.
Yes.
The moment it becomes spirituality, religions are finished anyway. So, yes, what I mean is the outward, the religion as we practice it. But again, on a large scale, we practice less of the religion, we talk more of it.
Right.
So if there are people who are seriously practicing their religion, it'll be a much quieter world. a lot of religious conflicts won't happen if you give your attention to practicing your religion instead of fighting for it. Or instead of trying to convert others to your religion, if you just go and quietly practice your religion, it'll be a far more peaceful and quieter world to live
Well, that's a controversial thing, and we'll come to that, because that's some paradigms are that you should convert. It is part of the religion to convert.
I doubt that.
Controversially, but there are certain denominations, shall we say, that they'll come to your house and knock your door and try to convert you to their denomination, and they have their very strong, and they're supposed to spend time on it.
Yeah. So that is religion. That's what I mean by religion. Because if it's a spiritual truth, if you're living a spiritual truth, your life is a quest for truth, there's no question of converting. How do you convert? Truth is truth.
Right.
So the moment you're talking about conversion, if you can convert from A to B, logically you can convert from B to C tomorrow.
Right.
Or you can convert back to A. So if you can convert from A to B to C, C to B to A, it's all meaningless anyway.
Except that it's politics.
Yeah.
It's
and
good
then,
politics.
So therefore, why the politics? Why do you want it? Because of numbers. Right. I have 10 people in my faith. You have 5. You have 2. Therefore, I'm stronger. I can control more. But you do not understand a simple fact that these 10 people that you have, out of which maybe 1 is actually practicing the religion, but you're carrying 10 people, 9 of which are following only the politics of it. So these are things we don't see. The moment we see these things, we'll drop these things. So that's why I call religion, all religions are politicized now.
All religions.
All religions are politicized.
So let's talk about the dharma, and I'm going to switch to dharma in India, because Sanatan Dharma has traditionally been identified with India. Should it be? Is India a special place to be? Or can you practice it anywhere? Because you said here and now. You didn't say it, I'm saying it. Wherever you
and you're
are.
Right, yes. Wherever you are or are not, you can practice Sanatan Dharma. But yes, there is a history to it. The Sanatan Dharma was received. Now, when I say received, I don't mean it again in the religious sense that you receive from on high. No. Think of human beings as they were many thousands of years ago. The mind was not so well developed. The sensibilities were not developed. It was still a lot of crudeness. And there is this consciousness that is waiting to descend to earth because life has to evolve on earth. So the consciousness will first try to find the most receptive instruments amongst the primitive species, amongst the primitive humans. And wherever it will find any opening, a more intelligent or a more sensitive person or being or whatever. So it will enter that mind. And it will first work the brain and the mind. It will prepare the brain and the mind. And then it will make itself more manifest in that particular individual. So it is in that sense that one receives.
Right.
And when one receives that higher consciousness and the brain is already prepared, the mind and the brain is prepared to receive, otherwise it'll go kaput. You'll have a mad sapien running around the jungle. So only then will that consciousness begin to infuse life on us. And that's how it's always been. So for some reason, when the mind was sufficiently developed in the human species, the higher spiritual consciousness began to enter, if I may use the word, the more receptive minds. Wherever there was a more pronounced search, wherever there was a deeper need to know, to understand, to fathom reality, that's where this consciousness would get in, and then again prepare the consciousness, the mind, and nervous system from inside and prepare it to receive the higher consciousness. So that happened geographically in this place that today we call India. So if you ask me why, I have no answer. Because we are giving it importance because today we say it's our country, this is India. But if you go back those many years, there was no India, there was no nation there. And so it was just one place on earth where it just so happened that this Vedic Sanatan civilization took birth. This Vedic civilization took birth in that one place on earth, which later becomes India. And then we say, oh no, it happened in India. So it happened in India, fine, but so what? But does that make India special? Yes, it does. Because this is that spot on earth where the Vedic civilization took birth, where the first Vedic rishis were born. So there is a certain importance to it. Yes. Certain significance.
You think it's the chosen land?
Chosen by whom and what? I don't think so. Again, I would say it's the chosen earth.
Anywhere on earth, people can explore dharma.
So again, we are thinking of dharma in a very this question has been asked often before. So it comes from again a very limited understanding of dharma. Dharma is not just spiritual. Dharma has other layers, dimensions. Dharma is also cultural. It's science. It's mathematics. Dharma comes through through all these dimensions. So even when Vedic civilization was being born here, the Vedas were taking birth. The first Vedas were being received by the more evolved of humans. There were other places on earth where technology was being received, where the first glimmers of science were being seen, received, where maybe the first agriculture was happening. Maybe the first people were making, they were doing pottery, perhaps.
Right.
And all kinds of things were happening in all kinds of, all locations on this planet. So if we give importance to only the spiritual descent, then yes, this was the chosen land. But does dharma come in only through spiritual descent? No, it has to come in through all the descents, because the consciousness is descending into the human species to create eventually a dharmic civilization. So it has to manifest in so many different ways. So if you see it from a cosmic perspective, the earth is a chosen place, a chosen land. The dharma is manifesting on earth.
And earth is supposedly, as Sri Aurobindo says, the place for evolution. You can grow.
Yes, this is the loka, the plane for evolution. Therefore chosen.
Okay.
Chosen land.
Let's switch a little bit to one very important section of your book on that, and that is on the Gita. It's, if I may say, that is a very strong influence on your work. And in some ways, it is also kind of the pivot around which the whole books and perhaps dharma itself revolves. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. To my mind, that's very clear that you expressed it rightly, that the Gita is the pivot around which the dharma revolves. The way I express it is in the Gita that you find the manual of the dharma, how to live the dharma. You may understand all its philosophy, but how do I live the philosophy? Because the darshan of Sanatan Dharma is very complex, very rich, very wide, very complex. How do I live it? So everything is one single reality. Great, but how do I live that? Because I don't see one single reality. So you go to the Gita. The Gita translates the darshan into the yoga. So there are two strands in my book, the darshan and the yoga of Sanatan Dharma. So what is that pivotal point which turns the darshan to the yoga and brings it to life as we live it? Gita.
And as we see, as we understand the Gita, it is a unique work, a scripture that is dealing with perhaps the most acute of problems right in there. The protagonist, Arjuna, is right there in the middle of a battle, ready to kill his loved ones, and now he has lost his dharma.
Right.
He doesn't know what is right, what is wrong. He doesn't know if he should quit, and his instincts are telling him that he should quit. His bow and arrow, his bow drops, is getting dizzy, lightheaded. He wants to sit down. He cannot bear to kill his loved ones. And strangely, Sri Krishna, instead of agreeing with him, tells him to fight. This is a unique scripture.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about that? I mean, is that what we are supposed to do? Fight and kill people?
So again, fighting and killing are metaphors too. I mean, at one level, they are actually fighting and killing, because if you go to the historical setting of the Gita, it's on a battlefield. That setting itself may be metaphorical, but the metaphor is as important as the content. So yes, it has a lot to do with the Dharma Yuddha, the actual battle in Kurukshetra. But it's not just killing and fighting at all levels. Killing and fighting are metaphor for engaging in practical life. So the Gita, why do I say the Gita is what expresses the knowledge body of the Sanatan Dharma? Because it deals with the most fundamental realities of human existence. How to live and how to die. That's one of the most important questions of the Gita. Because if you don't know how to live, you don't know how to die. And knowing how to die is as important, if not more important, than knowing how to live. So one of his first questions that Sri Krishna takes up is how to live and how to die. And one of the chapters is called No One Dies.
Right.
So Krishna tells you how no one dies. He just doesn't say no one dies, explains to you why no one dies. The moment he does that you know that you don't die. And this is not philosophy happening. The Gita is not philosophy. The Gita is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, where Krishna's dialogue has transformative power. Krishna being Krishna, his words are not the words of a ordinary human teacher, where you speak and the mind receives and then it understands and then assimilates and then it No. Krishna's words are the words of a Godhead, of an avatar, of Maha Yogi, Maharishi. So the words have a direct effect on the consciousness. What is said is immediately known and immediately done. So if Krishna tells you this is it goes into your consciousness, transforms your consciousness, you see the truth behind it, and seeing that truth is the understanding, and it is manifest in action. So the moment Arjuna realizes the immortality of his soul, the question of killing someone or the question of killing someone or being killed is resolved for him. So that's the first stage of the Dharma. Sanatan Dharma says the same thing, that you cannot live a life of Dharma as long as you're afraid of dying or of others dying. No? So you have to transcend this idea of death, like the idea of God, the idea of death, because death too doesn't exist. So you have to transcend the idea of death in order to start really living. Now, once that is done, now I'm free of the fear of death, because now I've understood. I'm not free of the fear of death mentally. I have realized the immortality of my soul. I've realized myself as my soul. So I'm now free of death, free of the idea of death. So immediately the next thing happens is, once that is done, now action. Once I'm free of the fear of death, what is the action that I engage with? Because Unless one is free of the idea of death, one will never know what that means, because to my mind, it's one of the profoundest and the most powerful of all realizations possible. Every realization that comes after it is not as important as this. This is like the first love. You may fall in love 100 times after that, but it's never like that first experience. So this is the first experience that you know that you're immortal is, I don't want to say earth shattering, universe shattering. You're never the same again after that, because suddenly something ancient has gone out from you, the idea of death, and it's immediately replaced by the idea of the immortal soul, immediately replaced by the consciousness that I'm here forever. This body will fall off, this mind will go back to the cosmos, but this that I am is eternal, immutable. Now from this constant, now suddenly there is strength, the strength of the spirit that knows it cannot, it is beyond life and death. What do I engage with? What is my objective now? What would such a being want out of life? So, the second truth of the Gita, such a being would only want one thing out of life: perfection. That is the yoga. Perfection in all that you are, in all that you do. Perfection in how you impact the world. Perfection in how you live your moments. Purnata. So that's the second. Now, once I'm free of this, then it's Purnata that can be the only thing that satisfies such a soul. But otherwise, why on earth? And not just my Purnata, but Purnata for everyone who comes anywhere near to me, because that becomes your supreme dharma, your param dharma, is to first realize your own immortality and then give that gift of immortality to everyone who is open to you and comes to you. That is your dharma. And to do it as quietly as possible, not make a song and dance about it. To do it quietly from the background, because this is a thing that can only be done from the background, quietly. So what is that action? And Krishna reveals one of the profound secrets of action, that which comes to you in the given circumstance, the given karmic circumstance and moment, is the action for you. So how do I know what? No, it's resolves. The question that how do I know what is my action? How does it come? Whatever is right now. You're a doctor, so your dharma is that of a doctor. You're a healer. If you're a teacher, your dharma is that of a teacher, an acharya. So when you look quietly around you, you already see the work is there for you. You don't have to look for your work. So you start doing that. That's your dharma. But is that all that you have? No. There are higher and higher dharmas, because it's purnata that you want now. So what is the highest dharma which will give me that purnata? So third secret that Sri Krishna reveals is, I am your highest dharma. And that establishes the non-duality, that I'm not someone out here.
Right.
And you're not offering worship to me. I am your future perfect self. I am the purnata that you seek, knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously. I'm always the purnata that you seek. So how do you realize that purnata that you seek? How do you realize Sri Krishna in yourself? The rest of the Gita is that. So what is right action? Engaging in that which has been brought to me by the force of circumstances, brought to me by my karma. The karma that has been brought to me by my karma. No? So, yes, and then the perfection that you attain.
So it's always has seemed to me that, even starting right from the beginning, when it says Dharma Kshetri Kurukshetri, and yes, it's a battle, but people get caught up in it. How was he able to discuss this with Arjun right in the middle of a battlefield,
Yes,
with
so
the armies arrayed?
it's a very difficult question again for most people to understand, because the Gita doesn't take place at one level. Firstly, it's not to be taken literally. obviously Shri Krishna did not give all this to Arjun in that moment when they're about to attack. One simply wouldn't have the time for that. So this must have happened before. I mean, it's not that Arjun would come to the field and then realize that he can't do that. He would be going through this for a long time, and they would be having dialogues before the battle. So the Gyan would be given before the battle. And then the battle would start. Now, if you put it that way, how do you put it? How do you present it in the middle of Mahabharata? And how does the Gita take on its true force? And it's the power of the Gita comes because of its setting in Kurukshetra, on the battlefield. So that I would call that a poetic license to the Gyan has been given to Arjun. Arjun has understood, assimilated, and then only he goes to fight. So, but this is how it really happens. But this doesn't have the dramatic potential. So to give it the dramatic potential, make it dramatic to the human mind, you place it in the middle of the battlefield.
So
that is one way of approaching it. There's another way of approaching it, which is a slightly more difficult way. That with a being like Krishna, space-time is no longer space-time as we know it. Just like a very powerful cosmic body can warp space-time, a being like Sri Krishna can also warp space-time. So we know through our study of relativistic physics that time is relative. If one travels at the velocity of light, then my time slows down.
Right.
And compared to someone on Earth, what was that movie? Christopher Nolan's movie. Interstellar,
yes.
Where he's traveling outside. You know the movie, you've seen the movie.
Yes.
So when he comes back, you know what happens. So much time has elapsed on Earth where no time has elapsed over there. That's the physics of it. There's a story about Narayan,
that's right, Vishnu,
where he asks about Maya, and so many years elapsed in Nara's life, and then he comes back and
it's a flash.
Vishnu has been sleeping for just a few seconds. I went to sleep. Where's my water? Right. So warp of space-time, warping space-time. So they may be there on the battlefield about to start, and Arjun says, "No, sorry, I can't fight." And Sri Krishna warps space-time. Like explaining Maya, Narayan explaining Maya to Narad. So he explains the whole of Gita. And for Arjun and Sri Krishna, probably a year would elapse for the whole Gita Gyan to be given and assimilated. Because the Gyan has the power of instant actualization. So all that would be happening. And Arjun would be realizing the truths and the truth that Krishna has given to him. And he would be prepared. Now I'm ready to fight. And all that would take time. But for those outside, no time would elapse. There's a fantastic illustration of it in the movie Contact.
Right.
Where there's this machine where Judy Foster is sitting inside, and the machine is released, and it falls from its scaffolding to the water, which takes a few seconds. But inside, Judy Foster sitting inside, Dr. Alloway sitting inside, she goes to Vega, the end of the galaxy, and has all those experiences with extraterrestrial life, which comes to her in the form of the father. And all that happens, and then she comes back. 18 hours has elapsed in her time. But when she comes back, it's only that few seconds from the release to the drop in the water. How do you explain that? Physics explains it. So why not this?
So you are the one person I've seen using quantum physics to explain Dharma. Not that it has not been tried before by Fritjof Capra and in the Dancing Woolly Masters. The difference I see here is you are bringing spiritual experiences into parallels with quantum physics, and makes us understand it in a different way. Most modern teachers are not talking like that, and I would like to talk about that when we return.
Sure.
If there is any returning, since we are always here. And now I'm totally confused. I can't talk. My mind is silent. and I think I have attained
Warped
the
space-time.
warp space in time. But let's warp this up, and then we will return.
That's a very good one. Let's warp this up for a while.
Right, and so this is Captain's Log, Star Trek, reporting back to Earth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we are back, although we are not. And we have Parthoji here, although he's not, because this is just his Namrupa, and this is another Namrupa, so it's all one reality. Basically, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm totally confused. So let's go back to the previous question. I'm in a time warp. I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. So you are the only acharya, if I may use the word, who's explaining difficult concepts of dharma in terms of modern physics. You're using modern analogies and symbols. Really, you've gone deep into modern physics. And I think the modern mind, the young student, the young generation needs to understand dharma in a new light,
Yes.
in a new language.
Yes.
Isn't that the new dharma
Yes.
now?
Yes. Well, yes, a new facet of dharma.
New expression of dharma.
Absolutely.
Right.
A new expression of dharma.
So a new articulation, and that is why also I say this book is very important. Although I am hoping that you will continue writing a book every year as you have promised me.
Yes, I remember.
And I promised it on your behalf to me, that you'll keep writing. So we can delve deeper, we can sink. Because let's face it, we have to practice.
Yes.
Even though you say we are one reality, but in the practical terms, even Sri Krishna has to belabor, and takes about 700 shlokas to make Arjuna understand. And if we really believe the story of Mahabharata as a fact, then even Arjuna goes back, relapses into not trying to hurt Bhishma and Drona, and then he has to be pushed by Sri Krishna again into fighting. So even a being like Arjuna has to be reminded again and again. So we, I think, have to iterate, go back, practice, which is what an important aspect of sadhana is. And as human beings, this is our unique promise, unique challenge, unique opportunity that we can ascend higher than the gods, higher than the devas, according to the Veda. Right? Let's talk about being human and being divine. And we hear that Sri Krishna was an avatar, he was divine, so he could do all these things. And then there are other thoughts that he was just a human, like any of us. What do you think?
I think the question itself is somewhat flawed because of an incomplete logic behind the question. And this is, I agree with you, it's a very important one. Many people ask this. So, and I know you're articulating questions that are often asked about the dharma.
Yes.
So let's answer this. Firstly, if we keep the Vedanta of the Dharma in mind, there is no human or divine. That differentiation between the human and the divine itself is a construct. And I'll explain how. Think of a caterpillar and a butterfly. So there is a difference and there is not a difference. There is a difference in structure, in what you perceive to be a structure. But there is no difference in process, in the reality of that organism, the reality of the organism. At a certain stage of that entity, it is a caterpillar. At another stage of that same entity, it is a butterfly. So if we say that when it's the butterfly, it's not the caterpillar, or when it's the caterpillar, it's not the butterfly, it would not be correct. It would be correct only in a very temporal causal sense. But again, in a Vedantic worldview, cosmic worldview, where everything is happening simultaneously, that entity is a caterpillar and a butterfly and everything in between the two. Its entire metamorphic process is one single thing. It's one single blossoming. So when we look at it as, when we look at the caterpillar, it's the caterpillar. When we look at the butterfly, it's the butterfly. When we look at the butterfly and look deeper, the caterpillar is still there. It's become the butterfly. When we look at the caterpillar very deep, we see the butterfly waiting. So the human and the divine is exactly the same thing. If we look very deep into the human, we'll see the divine waiting to blossom. When we see the divine, we'll see the human that's still there, but has become the divine. After a process of same metamorphosis, after a process of transformation, inner and outer. So is Krishna human? Yes. Is Krishna divine? Yes. So am I, so are you. We are all human and we are all divine. But we are, as I said a while ago, the divine is the Purnata of the human. Sri Krishna is Purnata of Arjun. So there is no difference between the human and the divine. What is the difference between Krishna and Arjun, therefore? Krishna, and he himself says it in a slightly different context, that I know it and you don't. That's the only difference between us. It's not that I'm different from you in being. We are the same. But I know it and you don't. The difference, therefore, is in knowing.
And we see this battle being pitched with several human divine teachers down the ages. We have had different teachers who have come, great beings, great personalities, expressions of that time and age. And then after they're gone, we fight. Are they avatars? Are they human? Are they divine? We see that happen with the Buddha. We see that happen with so many modern teachers, Sri Aurobindo himself. And I think it's an important perspective, at least in the Vedic terminology, the human and divine are part of the same yajna, right? And the yajna is, of course, again a very important symbol, comes into the Gita again and again, and you have pointed it out. It is one of the key symbols of the Gita, and I think we can talk for hours on the Gita itself. There is so much in it. One thing I just wanted to touch, and probably after that we can call it a day or a night, because we are in the time warp, is the concept of rishihood. And there's a beautiful speech that was delivered by Swami Vivekananda that really touched me. He says, India was not created by a system or some great king or some, I don't know, he used several things.
It's the whole chapter is there.
Right. It was created by
Appendix.
rishis.
Yes, created by rishis.
Great beings who had a different level of awareness, refined awareness, and they could bring that awareness into reality with the power of their inspired speech or the mantra. And what he says is absolutely beautiful. He says, we all, if we want to change the world, we have to become rishis. He expected the Indians, the youth, to become the next generation of rishis.
He did, yes.
And then he says something even more astounding, which you can expect from Swamiji. He said, we will do greater things than our ancient rishis did. Which is because usually in our respect for tradition, the respect of the past, we never want to exceed the past. But I think this way of looking is, if we really respect the past, we have to exceed it. That past, which is still present, is becoming the future. If we truly respect the rishis, if we truly honor them, we have to not only become the rishis, but we have to become even greater rishis than the past.
Take their work forward.
Take their work forward. The Purvebhi, they used to call them the Purvebhi, and the Nutanai Ruta, the new rishis. And there was always the greatest respect for the rishis who had come, the teachers of the past, utmost respect. And yet taking their knowledge to fare forward.
Fare forward, yes.
I think those are important things. The dynamism, the sheer energy, the ability to invoke physical, mental, vital strength and not become weaklings. That may be seen as one hallmark of Swami Vivekananda's presence in India, and that was his awakening of India in the 19th century. In fact, with him, Dharma went beyond India symbolically.
And actually.
Practically, actually. And then actually came back to Indians because once the Americans start accepting Dharma, then we say, it's great, let's
something
become.
Interesting, yes.
And then I think Sri Aurobindo continues the same tradition of Swami Vivekananda, takes it forward. And I think it's incumbent on us that we take it further ahead.
Yes.
The forms will be different. The name may be different. It may be used. You don't have an ochre robe here.
No.
Would you want to put that on next time?
No.
Why not?
I'm not so concerned with the ochre robes or the jeans and t-shirts. I'm more worried about this that I still wear.
Yes.
The skin. So I'm now more concentrated on changing this that I wear as my skin.
The whole body?
Yeah.
The mind, the
mind,
prana?
I'm not so concerned about anymore. Mind behaves itself. It does what it has to do. It's the body that I'm a bit more concerned about.
What's your next project? Is there something that this is evolving into?
In
Do you
writing?
have some peak in writing?
Yes.
Your personal...
I've already started a book called No One Dies. It's one of the chapters in this book, which is now going to become a book, on this whole question of death based on the Gita, the Vedanta of the Gita.
Ashocyan shochastam pragyavadancha bhashase. You grieve for those for whom you should grieve not. And then you talk like a wise man.
So this needs to be explained in such concrete terms that once you read it and understand it, this idea of death begins to fade from your consciousness. So that's the book. That's what the book is about. No One Dies.
It's almost like living in a different order.
Yes.
The moment you realize that you're not dying and others are not dying, you are in a different space, time.
Yes. Your whole worldview changes. It's much closer to the Sanatan Darshan.
And isn't that what Sri Krishna is bringing him back to, a different order of living, of being?
Yes, absolutely. And he starts so beautifully by saying that there never was a time that you were not there and I was not.
That's right.
You've forgotten it, I haven't. So
that
is the grand opening to this this vastness of our being, which is immortal.
And that is why it is important for us to understand Dharma, because it's not just about fighting, but fighting in a different order, where you are no longer fighting, where there's no one to fight.
Yes, and you're fighting for Dharma itself. And for establishing Dharma in the material. That is why the fight was needed. Because earth is also the material plane, and matter is the resistance. So to fight this resistance, there has to be Dharma youth. And it's still going on. Next year, 2024, I think, is a very critical Dharma youth for this country, for India.
And India has to decide what Dharma is going to be.
India has to decide, yes, its own future. It's one of those very few moments that come to every nation, every individual, where you have to take a decision that you're going to live with for the next few decades.
With that note, understanding that Dharma works at different layers, different times, and I think the new Dharma comes in its own form and its own name. And hopefully the next book, No One Dies, I'll be here. We will be studying it.
We'll warp space-time again.
We'll warp space-time and it'll be right here now. And not a moment has elapsed. It'll be just a 3-second drop from the top to the water. Thank you. We appreciate the amazing work you have done. This is Sanatan Dharma, the quest for truth. Again, as I said, one of the most important, at least the themes for our nation, for the world, for our society, for our youth. The more we talk about it, the more we question it, the more we have a discourse and dialogue about it, the better for all of us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Partho
Thank
Dada.
you. Thank you.
Namaskar.